Hey, Everest is still owner of my favorite play in UFA history. The catch giving the too
Too
small
small.
while the play is still active, only to dish the disc away and then jump way too early in excitement to try to grab the score in the end zone and just
Damn,
missing it.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. I was fouled. It's clear if you look back at the film. It's quite clear.
My fault. So speaking of this KD analogy, I want to make it. I want to go a little further with it. How does it feel leaving your old podcast to come join the even better podcast?
Mhm.
Oh, good. It's a great question. Okay, can I tell you, I liked doing the pod. It was hard, like having to pay attention to everything while playing. And like I mentioned in I think it was in my live with Lep. I can't remember when I mentioned it. Might have even been on the pod. The hardest part was in the middle of the season when I was just miserable with what was happening with cats. And I was obviously in such a bad mood that it was coming across in the podcast. Like I was like I became like grumpy like for like multiple episodes in a row, and it was like very clear that I was like just frustrated, and I didn't do a great job on the pod during those times. I felt like I did okay the rest of the time, um, but I do feel like when I come on here, I can kind of be a little like looser and a little like less buttoned up, and I do like that. I actually before doing Swing Pass had wanted to start a pod with a teammate, Colin Ringwood. Um, who I've played with for a number of seasons, and it was going to be called the Rude Dudes Podcast, which was a nickname that John Jones accidentally gave to us one day at practice, and has never stopped hearing about it. There's actually a rap song out there about Colin and I being the Rude Dudes that we made and was produced by the guy who does all of our video production stuff for Alley Cats.
Can we
And
get that on the pod?
I'll have to find it. I am 100% willing to send it to you if I can find it.
Oh yeah.
It's like 5 years, 6 years old at this point.
That's
But
hilarious.
we made it just to send to John Jones. That was the only reason we made it. It was just to troll John Jones with like thanking him for giving us this nickname of the Rude Dudes. Um, and we it was just gonna be a pod where we would pick like one. We would basically would make a statement and we'd be like rude or true. And it would be a statement like Rowan McDonald is washed up. Is it a rude statement or is it a true statement, right? Like, so are we
I
just
like that.
being salty here or are we speaking some truth? And it was just going to be like basically super hot takes, but like hot takes that have enough credibility or like credence to them that you do have to kind of stop and think for a second, like, ooh, like, um, and we were going to, the whole premise was we were going to do that, but we were going to bring in a guest each episode. And we were, every time we were going to troll the guest to some extent by asking a rude slash true question about that person, like while they're on the pod with us. Um,
We should skip
and
that.
yeah, it would have been fun. But then like I was like, oh, I get to do like a real buttoned up like pod that already exists and kind of sort of has a following already. So that was pretty cool. But I would love to do like just kind of a for fun pod. I do get to maybe do my own thing now though with UFA, where I basically do like a video column every week. That's like maybe 10 or 15 minutes. This is kind of what we've been talking about. This is like the first idea that was thrown out there, which I kind of like. So it'd be like I have a video column that I get to put out. I can talk about whatever I want. But instead of having to like recap the whole league, which is like fine, but maybe not the most exciting content, especially when we're releasing it like 3 or 4 days after the games are played. Instead, it's like I can just say, hey, this week I'm going to talk about like the top here's the top three teams in the league and here's what they all have in common and kind of break that down. Or I can be like, oh, I want to break down the success that like New York's having on offense, or the success of maybe a unique defense that a team is running. Like maybe I talk about Colorado and their forced middle and like how it completely shut down the teams they played the previous weekend, whatever. But I could just like pick something. Um, and that's kind of cool because then I can kind of release it on my own schedule. I can just record it whenever, and then they can just upload it whatever day they want to release it. And so I can kind of work on my own schedule instead of me and Adam having to find a time where that works
Mhm.
for both of us and all that. So
So
Yeah,
this is
of
something
course.
you're going to be doing?
I think so. It's in like the early stages right now, but it is like something where I can basically Adam was like, we want to take you away from being like a commentator, which is we kind of just basically turned you into like straight media person, and you weren't really able to use your player perspective much. And we'd rather use you as like a player voice, like you're the one who's like on the field, boots on the ground, like what's going on actually on the field. What do you see that we don't see as analysts from off the field? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a probably better use of me than just like
Mm.
Yeah.
they also thought it would be a little weird because last year I was on Cats who like we weren't really title contenders in everyone's eyes, but he's like it'd be kind of weird if every week we're talking about Atlanta and you're like talking about your own team. And I was like, true. So
Checks out.
yeah,
All right.
but I
Well,
see.
And you can always come here and give us your rude takes whenever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Rude
You
dudes.
got any rude takes on Everest Shapiro on the Empire?
Oh yeah, Everest.
Ooh,
Give us your. Do you have your answer now for? Uh,
yeah,
can you repeat the question, Cam?
yeah. How is being like on like your experiences with New York so far? How's that been different than your other frisbee experiences?
Um, in the past, I've played with people who felt like they or who have kind of really like specialized in one or two aspects of the sport. And here so far, it feels like every single person, almost every person I'm playing with, is just like elite at almost every different aspect: throwing, cutting, jumping, like defense, switching, poaching defense. Just like it feels like everybody really kind of has refined their skills and is able to slot in wherever. And that's like really, really exciting for me because now I feel like I can kind of fit better, do play my own type of way, not worry about what the team needs. If we need another person, need more hucks, if we need like more poachy defense, try to force a block. Like it feels like I can just kind of play my own way and trust that everybody else is able to fill in and the team will be really well rounded because everybody can contribute equally in a good way.
Who was your least favorite teammate in LA and why was it Pavel?
That was not my least favorite teammate. Do I have a least favorite teammate?
You don't have to answer that. You don't have to answer that.
You say sigh, we're kicking you off this podcast.
Nah, it was my friend Riss a couple of years ago. It was rough. He would like get pissed and angry and it was like yelling at practices and he would be upset with himself, but he'd get upset with other people and shit. And it was like, Riss, relax. And then he like took off a few games or a year or something, came back and he was like, I'm different now. And he fucking was, to his credit. It was amazing. He was one of the best teammates I've had after that. I was like, fuck yeah, dude. Like
Damn.
it's great that I don't know. I mean, I still kind of enjoyed it when he was so like fired up because it was great that he played defense, so he was just like he would get in the other team's heads, and I loved that.
hmm
But like at practices, it kind of got on my nerves a little bit, which means he was probably doing a really good job. But yeah, then he became one of my favorite teammates later on. Shout out, Riss.
Oh yeah.
We had a practice in Indy one time where the coaches told everyone on the O line. This was like 2014, 2015. Um,
Jesus, I
they
didn't
were
even know
like,
what Frisbee was back then.
yeah, there. That was before we could call it frisbee. They told us that every time we scored, just to be as obnoxious as possible, because our D line was just full of hotheads who would just like lose their minds, and they really had a trouble keeping their composure. So, like, just like over celebrate, like get in people's faces, like every time you score. So, like, we were just obnoxious the whole practice, and I will never forget. We had this player, Spencer Loscar. He was really good defense. He was like always our guy. We'd move over to O line if we had absences, and he was really great for us for a number of years. And he was, I just never forget. We scored. I think I don't even remember who scored. I don't remember if it was me or someone else. He was nowhere near the play, but he was like kind of running behind the play. And as he ran by me, I was like, I was like, I was like, damn, Spencer, you got cooked. And he goes, what the fuck, Cam? I wasn't anywhere near you. Just like shoves me and just they're just like losing their minds. And I'm like, this is working way too well. It took like 8 or 9 points before they like realized what we were doing because they were just like seeing red. Like they were so angry. Um, Once they realized it, they calmed down, but it took way longer than it probably should have. But that was kind of the whole point. But it was freaking hilarious. It was one of my favorite practices ever. Just knowing that we got to act like a complete idiots to our teammates, and it was like actually told we were told to do it. So.
The
That's pretty good.
But no, that's cool. I'm excited to see what you guys do in New York. Like it's gonna be a fun year. And speaking of, where should we put them? Where would they fit on this pretty little chart over here that you have on the
Yeah.
screen?
Cam, I'm thinking you put the Empire somewhere, and then Everest, you got to
I'll
throw
put
the
him there.
hustle on there.
Okay.
Ooh,
We can also not start there if you want to see how it.
yeah. Let's. How about this? How about we save Atlanta and New York as the last two
All
teams?
right, let's do it.
I think you should both throw out your most mediocre middle of the line team, and then we'll work our way out.
Yeah,
Madison,
call out your seat.
Madison.
That's
There we go. That's a good C for Central.
Everest,
It is.
Central's
that?
legit this year.
Is there a
Just
void or is there a team that's all black? Oh, okay.
I think Toronto.
Ooh,
Actually, maybe they're gonna be B.
lame.
I'm really interested to see what Mark Lloyd looks like because that dude back in the day was, I mean,
Is it good?
it's dude, he was like up there with Bo. I would put him up there with Bo as just like this dude can just change a culture. He almost feels like he wins games just by stepping on the field. Like everyone else's stats just get a 5 point bump.
I'm small.
I think Philly for my C tier. Well, I guess it's not all about.
Philly lost Pollard.
They
Yeah,
lost,
yeah.
and y'all took Dimitri too, right? Like,
Yep.
and, yeah, I think Philly, man, they were C tier last year with those guys.
Well, it depends on the hot bird or cold bird,
Yeah,
but
the Hotbirds were. The
There was no
Coldbirds
hot,
weren't.
there were no hot birds last year. They were cold all season. They almost,
Yeah.
one of the, what, they only won like 2 games, and one of them was the game they were down by like 7 or 8 goals, and they just
Yeah, I
got
remember
lucky.
watching that.
Yeah.
Rooter true. Rooter true.
oh yeah. All right.
All right.
I
Everest.
say true.
Ooh,
I think we also need to shoot from the hip from a lot of these teams because for starters, it's the off season. We don't really know exactly what's going
Oh, we
on.
know everything.
We know
We're good.
All
everything.
right.
Yeah.
Union A.
Do we
Yeah.
have an S tier team?
That depends. I don't know.
It might depend on you and Everest.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
I think
That's
you can
fair.
throw maybe a couple of the championship weekend teams from last year there.
Maybe Minnesota.
Minnesota's definitely at minimum top of A. If you wanted to put a team as S, I guess you would have to put Minnesota. They're the defending champs.
Yeah, I
They
think you
added
have
Justin
to.
Burnett and James Pollard.
Yeah.
You
So
have to.
if
They're the defending champs. Like, what are we doing?
and they got better. That's
Yeah,
the other
exactly.
thing. Yeah.
Fair.
Austin C. They lost some players. I have it on good authority that they have lost more players than we even publicly know about
Wow.
yet. And that there is some unhappiness with some changes they thought were going to happen that did not. So I think Austin only beat Houston and Dallas last year too. Like those are the only two teams they beat, and they almost lost to both of them on multiple occasions. So like
Mhm.
it's hard for me to put them anywhere else when they haven't beaten a team. Like Dallas didn't beat anybody, and Houston only beat Dallas. So like
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna shoot here. I think Colorado is a solid B tier team.
Okay.
because they still have elite players to beat the good teams, but they just didn't do it consistently in the last year. So I don't think they deserve to be an A tier.
Rodney Adams,
Even with former Bears receiver Rodney Adams, come on,
Bears
man.
standout receiver.
What kind of Bears fan are you,
Yeah,
Ryan?
seriously.
He has zero catches for the Bears in the regular season.
You got to get his jersey.
Yeah,
Bears
I
and
feel like
some.
a half and half thing.
Oh my God, coming
Yeah.
up Bears.
That would actually be
If
sick.
anyone here knows someone who can make custom jerseys for me, I'll pay like $200 for that if they want to do that. That would be sick.
Sam and I made some pretty convincing Empire jerseys that one time.
That's true.
I'll pay you $200, I guess.
All right, I'm on it.
So if
Um,
Summit B, does that mean Shred A?
I think so.
Yeah, Shred's
Shred. Ooh, Shred's interesting
Would
because
love to hear your thoughts.
No
Yeah.
It's
cannoli
Canal.
anymore.
well, we play them first game of the season. That's our first game is
Ooh.
home against Salt Lake.
damn.
So that's a great game for the first week's got some banger games. Actually, like New York Vegas, I don't think is going to be a close game, but it's going to be an interesting game because it's going to be new New York with like the additions, then Vegas, who's a complete question mark, and it's a Thursday game, so it's like only game
No,
that
no,
day.
it's
Or
no,
it's a Friday.
yeah,
Yeah, because the
Friday.
Thursday game
Yeah,
is
exactly.
also Empire, but against Oakland.
Oh, that's right, right. So you have New York on the second day of a back-to-back. Like,
Yeah.
so first off, New York
They-
Oakland is interesting because I mean, Oakland was a playoff team last year. The New York Vegas is interesting because who's Vegas? You got Atlanta and Salt Lake, which is two, teams that won their division. Both teams were the one seed in the playoffs and then lost in their division championship games. Um, and like Atlanta adds a bunch of pieces, two of which played in Salt Lake last year because Elijah Jaime is back with Hustle this year. And then Salt Lake,
Oh,
The
Oh, I
interesting.
yeah,
didn't know that
Wow.
either.
yeah. So then Salt Lake is like down a bunch of players from last year. They have some players who are injured, obviously, like Merrill. I think one of the Hoffmans is still hurt. Um, so like they're gonna be kind of a question mark coming into the first game in terms of like who's on offense and who's just even rostered. They added Jeremiah Branson, who was my teammate in Indy for the last 2 years. So be curious to see what they look like. I think they're at a high B, low A tier right now because Utah's also just got a ton of talent. Like their high school programs, their college programs out there are really strong.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I feel like even the depth. I mean, playing against them, it felt like even the depth on their roster was like still really, really talented.
mhm.
Like even people I'd never heard of, like random D-line cutters had great throws and like super athletic, and it was I don't know. It was always a little intimidating playing against Shred because it felt like anybody at any moment could just pop off and make like a humongous impact.
Yeah, and it'll just be interesting because they might have a lot of people playing in their first game. If they're like bringing in some of this young
Mhm.
talent, their first game ever is traveling all the way across the country to
Yeah, that's true.
play against an Atlanta team that's was really good last year and then maybe even got better in the offseason. So um, I don't know. It'll be scary, but they're definitely at minimum like top of B tier. I think they're just kind of a question mark right now because they are going to have a much different look this year, I think, than they've had the last 3 years.
What
Just
makes this
throw him
interesting
in
is
B. I trust Cam.
I say throw them a B because we need to talk about the division winner, Seattle Cascades.
Yeah, what's up with that?
They lost Khalif, but they
Yeah.
still have pretty much everyone else.
Mm, they lost
I
some
th
other random people.
I'm curious if they're going to have Aaron Wolf back. He's was so good for them last year. He's German. I don't know if he's back. If he's back, I would say like you could. The thing is with those West teams, like those three teams very much feel to me like I almost would need to see what roster they're bringing to each individual game. Like
Yeah.
Colorado, I think is going to be better this year than I think they're going to be better this year than they were their first year when they went to championship weekend.
Uh,
And I think it's because they added a bunch of talent and they know who they are going into the season. Like the last 2 years, they've like not Nethercut's been like there, not there, there, not there, and they've like gone into the season. It seems like planning for him to be there, but then he's not, and it's like they've planned their offense around this. Then he's not there,
Hmm.
and they don't have that consistency. And I think this year they know ahead of time he's just not rostered. Like he's not going to be playing. I think they have a clear idea of what their identity is going to be. I expect Colorado to be the best version of Colorado that they've had, assuming they're healthy. Because the other thing we have to keep in mind is Quinn Finer only played like 4 or 5 games, and
Yeah.
they only lost one of those games, which is that game in Seattle that they lost on like a last second score. Um, they won
Yeah.
the rest of the games when he was there. So if he's healthy, which he seems to be, I think that also just bodes really well for Colorado.
Yeah. And
Danny,
speaking of them,
Danny
they
Landis back.
I was literally about to say Danny Landisman, if he's healthy, I don't know where he's at after he's torn his both ACLs or the same one twice.
I'm not sure.
Everest, you know?
I think he's back in shape now. I think he'll be ready for the season.
So that's exciting because he adds literally what they needed the last 2 years, which is someone who can handle with Alex Atkins and not make Kins like the focal point and have it be more of like a two-man offense.
When they add Elliot Hawkins too, he played Cats last year, but he's a U20 Worlds guy who's playing at Colorado now, and his family moved out to Colorado. Elliot Hawkins, his brother, is a senior at UMass right now, and played Cats the last few years. He's not currently like rostered or anything. He doesn't have any connections to Colorado yet, but since his family lives there, right now, last time I talked to him, his plan he doesn't have a job planned out yet, so he's going to be moving out to Colorado. He could be like a mid-season addition,
Mm.
from a team who's I think currently ranked second in the college rankings, and he's one of their best players, if
Oh,
not their best player. So
Yeah.
um, they might just add even more talent and depth to that roster.
Yeah, and I think that's what B tier is. It's just like that we think you're good, but we aren't sold yet. And I think that all three of those teams have proved it that they can be good, but it's very wishy-washy. All right, moving on.
All right, let's get some rapid fire. F.
Can we
I'd put Houston in D. I mean, I think they had added a couple pieces this year. I think they can be feisty and pick off. I think this will be the year that
I
they win
guess
a game
I
that's not
assume they
against
picked up,
Dallas.
yeah, picked up some Dallas talent, right?
I think they might have picked up some Austin talent too.
Mm,
Ooh, okay.
So
interesting.
Uh, Detroit added legendary Joe Cubit back to the roster, so I think they should be in Mechanics tier.
yeah.
They just got to
Nice.
start there, you know.
I think Bighorns are F tier.
Yeah, I want it. I think they might end up in Mechanics tier by the end of the year, but they can't start there.
I
I,
agree.
I met a guy at a indoor tournament I was playing at this weekend who is from Indy, lives in Utah, but went to the Vegas tryouts, and he said it was just an absolute shit show. Like it just was not it.
Mm.
Said it was disorganized. The talent level was like suspect. Now I got to take it with a grain of salt because I wasn't there, but it didn't sound like it was great.
Yeah, I have friends from LA and from Colorado and Utah who all went to the Vegas tryouts, and I don't know.
I've got a friend who made the team, so I'm excited to watch him play.
Nice.
Henry?
No, this guy named Adrian. He used to be my captain a couple years ago. Sick guy.
I've heard he's favored for rookie of the year.
I heard he is too. He's gonna fucking kill it this year. I told him he's gonna lock down Everest in the first game, and
The big
yeah,
one?
watch out, rookie of the year.
All
All
right.
right.
Pittsburgh Sands Max Shepard.
Addition by subtraction.
Oh,
I think Max had been kicked off the O line by the end of the season, and this is not a dig at Max as a player. I think Max is an incredible player. I mean, he's Everest's teammate now. I think what Max has always needed, and I've been saying this for like 5 years, I think what he has always needed is somebody who actually coaches him and like tells him when he's doing something stupid. Because when he was in Pittsburgh, he could just do whatever the heck he wanted. He could have a game where he was +8 with like one total turnover, and the next game he would have like 5 assists and 6 turnovers. And it's just like you can't win playing like that high variance. He like single-handedly lost a game against us one time. It was like 2022 when we went there, where he had 5 assists and I think it was 6 turnovers. I mean, it was
wow.
just like,
He's
you
got
know,
into the shiny thing.
Everest,
yeah,
I can hear, I can see the thoughts rattling in your mind. You want to say something?
I mean, he also had a 50-50 season, right? One of
100%. And that was on a team that had more talent on it, where he, he wasn't just doing max ball where it was just like, but I think when he didn't have as much talent around him, he just was a loose cannon and he had no direction
Mhm.
and it would be like feast or famine with him.
Well, he's
And
got a lot of talent around him this year.
no, and I think he's going to get more coaching too. I think and not only more coaching, but I think the players around him in New York are going to hold him accountable for his decision making. But I also think he's just going to take more ownership over his decision making because the expectations are so much higher and he's not going to be relied on to like make things happen
Yeah.
because it's like one of those things where he really kind of was relied on to do too much, but there were also times where it was like he shouldn't have been trying to do as much. I think like when CJ Colicchio and Thomas Edmonds were still there were times where he was still trying to do too much. Like he was still trying to like play max ball and he didn't need to as much when you have those two guys on the line with you, along with some other players who were like John Mass, who I think is kind of an underrated player, but it's just like, man, like he was just not good for them last year, like on offense. And I don't know what it was. I know he had an injury too, so like that was definitely playing into it. He had a pretty nasty hamstring injury that like I think he tried to come back from too early, and then it never really healed properly, and all these other things. But we tried to get him to play in Indy. I actually thought he was going to, and I was really excited
Wow.
to have him potentially as a teammate. Because I was just like, I feel like if he's in a system where it's like we want him to make plays, but we're also like not going to let him just do whatever the heck he wants and just throw the disc whenever, wherever, whenever. I felt like he could really thrive with some more structure. And I think he's going to be amazing in New York because he's going to have that structure and he's going to have really good players around him too. Like you've seen him at All-Star games, at the two All-Star games, he was freaking crazy. And I think it's just because like he actually had a team full of like good players around him and
Hmm.
you put him with good players and I think he's like a cheat code. Like he can
Yeah.
just unlock so many things for you.
Yeah, he's been sort of unstoppable so far at practices, and it's really, really, really freaking cool to watch.
Yeah,
So
he
they,
probably makes your job really easy because not only is can he just like get open pretty much at will, but then like he can throw it to anywhere on the field.
Beautiful. He's
All
also
right.
had a
Let's
crazy
let's
summer. He's got an insane
T-Bird's
summer.
T-Bird's bottom of C still?
I actually
Ooh,
think they're going to be
that was
better than Madison this
that was a
year.
tough
All
season.
right.
Mm.
I'm gonna throw the spiders in C, and then I would say a quick side note. I think one of the underrated offseason signings this year was Keenan Lawrence to the Colorado Summit.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying,
True.
man. Colorado added so much. They added Oakland Spiders legend Keenan Lawrence and Bears legend Rodney Adams. I mean, come on.
Friend of the pod, Keenan Lawrence, and soon to be friend of the pod.
Yeah, you guys gotta
We
get
should,
Rodney
Oh
in
yeah, we got to
we'll
get
get
him
him
on.
on.
Um,
Absolutely.
All right,
all
we
right.
got 10 minutes left in our free Zoom meeting.
Breeze, breeze,
Grind it
breeze.
out.
Breeze,
Breeze
middle
A
B,
tier.
Breeze A tier.
Middle
Oregon,
B.
He says middle B.
middle B.
middle
New,
B.
man, he's already adopted the New York state of mind up there.
Yeah, keep it going.
Oregon,
You guys
Oregon
fucking
still
suck.
top of F, maybe bottom of F. I don't know.
Dick and balls.
I
They're gonna be
Amos.
good.
yeah,
Yeah, they're gonna
above
be
Low
Vegas.
D, maybe.
Boston Glory A tier.
They could be low D. I think Oregon could be low D.
Yeah, I agree. They added Lucas
B for dick and
Connieris. That's a
balls.
huge pickup. They got yeah, Boston Glory. I would put top of A. Yeah, I think they look
Guys, you guys
Alley
are like
Cats D.
brainy.
Alley Cats
No, no,
Yeah,
top of D
Cam, you gotta
tier.
pay Alley Cats. And then Everett,
Yep,
give us
ever
They
see
lost. They
oh
lost.
God, Aviators. Oh, I love you guys.
Bottom,
Um,
middle D, above the steel, above the steel.
no, top D. No, right behind Alley Cats D.
Yeah. Toronto C.
I love you guys. No, I think
Toronto.
Toronto is gonna be low
At
B.
least, yeah, B tier. I think.
Yeah, that's a
Man,
big
I
addition.
think, yeah, I think they'll compete. I just don't think they'll be as good as the top three.
I just think, yeah, it's tough because there's gonna be a ton of East Coast teams that
I
are
hope they get a full season out of Phil Turner because that dude is so good.
put an
Like,
F, put an F.
I think
Yeah.
low D for Royal.
Okay.
yeah, losing DeCrana, if I'm saying it right.
The Crown.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think losing to Krana is kind of a huge. Growlers?
I was like,
Kind of C?
I think Growlers
Growlers,
would be high
I
C,
don't know.
maybe.
high,
I don't.
either
I don't.
top of C or low B.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. Top C would be.
I
I
think
think,
because we got the top of the West here already, we should keep them
Yeah.
separate.
Gotta keep
All
it.
right.
hey, they're the South
They're
now,
in the yeah, they're in the South.
and
Oh, true, true.
I think they are the third playoff team in the South.
Sweet.
Ooh.
All right. And this is
Carolina.
the second one.
Growlers are good.
What's going on with their roster? Are they coming back this year?
Carolina is exactly like what Everest was saying about Salt Lake. It doesn't matter if they lost people. Like, yes, they lost some top end guys that you can't replace, but the people they're going to replace them with are going to be really good players. Like, I think they're still a like A tier team because even though I mean, they lost Durs, they lost Henry Fisher, they lost probably Sol Yannick.
Are
But
all
those are
these
like
White.
guys just not
Joe
playing or are
White.
they going somewhere else?
they
Lost. Yeah,
Henry
they're
Fisher's
just
in
lost.
They're lost.
Fisher's in med school.
Like a show.
Yannick is moving for, I think, med school. Durs moved to New York.
Brandon.
Is
And
Durs
Joe
your
White's
teammate
not
over?
playing either, right?
Huh?
Who?
Joe White?
Yeah.
He tore his ACL at Club Nationals, so I would assume he's
Oh,
just like
that's right.
not even. I'm
Yeah.
not playing anywhere this year. So yeah, Carolina. But like the thing is, they still have a ton of talent left there, and like Laviolette re-signed, and I know they lost Toby Brooks to Colorado. I think they're still like they're still an A
South
tier team.
Carolina.
I think Carolina just can't ever not be an A tier team with how much talent they have in the area. They're just
Yeah.
always going to be there.
All right. It comes down to two.
All right, who wants to go first?
I'm placing the Empire, right? And he's placing the Hustle.
Yeah.
I will place the Empire first. That way I can make Everest have to do it by comparison. Um, I right now, I think as awesome as the Boston Glory offseason has been, and also, I was on record as saying this is before all the New York additions got said, but I thought Boston was going to be the top team in the East coming into the season because they had the most room to grow. I felt like the other teams were like already closer to their peak. But since all the signings we've seen from New York, I think New York top of A right now. I do think behind Minnesota, New York has had a great off season. They still have Jack Williams, they still have Binyad, they still have Antoine Davis. They still have like a ton of people who were on those championship teams. And then they add Everest, they add Max Shepard, they add was it Calvin Brown? Am I getting that name right? Sorry.
Yeah.
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 And I know they added someone else I'm forgetting too, but
Faye and Dimitri.
yep, Dimitri, yep. And it's just like those are all such great additions. And I think Phil needs that they had too. That it wasn't even just like they were great players; it fills needs that they had on their roster. So I think New York is nipping at Minnesota's heels right now.
Cool.
I think Atlanta is either right behind Empire or right behind Glory. I don't know.
I wanted more drama than this.
More drama. Hey, this is gonna be good.
I want you to say they're like bottom would be.
I'm gonna say behind Glory.
So this is a team that lost to Carolina in the playoffs.
Well,
In one of the cleanest games of all, that's the other thing. I
it can
think you could
happen.
largely say that their two games that they lost to New York and Austin were felt more like choke jobs a little bit. I felt like the game they lost to Carolina. I mean, it was one of the cleanest playoff games we've ever seen. It wasn't a situation where they like played terrible. It was like they both offensively were so good in that game. I think what they total number of breaks in that game was like three or something like that. So
It's hard for me to wrap my head around Minnesota being good. There's something about that team and watching them play that it doesn't.
I kind of agree.
It doesn't
I hear
feel
that. I
like
hear that as well.
it doesn't feel to me like they're as good as their results are, you know? Like
What if we just pop them up to the front of A, so it's not
Yeah,
like they're a whole
I
They're
tier
really
the
think
ahead?
so.
they're
We
the defending
and then
champs.
we
Does
go
this
back
team
to
seem
what
like they're
Cam said, no S
undefeatable to
tier.
you? This team doesn't feel like they're like undefeatable or like a lock for championship weekend.
Hold on. This is bullshit. This is our offseason tier list or preseason. They're the defending champs. Like if we're
So
gonna
Cares?
S
Who
tier,
cares?
who cares?
I don't
There's so much.
care.
If there was no
They're
change,
not good enough.
if
That
there was
game was
no
so
change at
windy.
all, then
they
okay,
added James Pollard
And
and
Justin
Justin
Burnett.
Burnett.
Yeah.
okay.
I like them both. That's all I got.
They lost nobody and added two really good
Elite
players.
They
players.
didn't
Yeah,
even
but
feel
like going into the playoffs last year,
they didn't
I
even
didn't
feel
think
A tier.
Minnesota was like a lock even to make championship
Here,
Yeah,
here,
weekend.
Yeah.
exactly.
here's my case. Here'll be the case as somebody who has more experience, and I got a short window to get this in. But during the season, when they had their struggles, a lot of their struggles were a lot of injury issues, like availability issues. Like when they lost their home game to Pittsburgh, they were missing everybody. When they played New York, they weren't missing everybody, but they were missing enough in that game where it was going to make a difference. And they clearly just like really struggled in that game. When they got to the playoffs and they were like just like game planning one team at a time, like it was just so obvious how much more prepared they were for each opponent than the opponent was for them. And that's the thing that has always set them apart is it's really the coaching. So like I think their game plan, their ability to game plan specifically for teams is like unmatched. And one of the big reasons is because they're so local that they're able to like make those adjustments all throughout the season. So I think that's the strength of their team.
It's the year of the travel player.
It really is.
It is.
All right. Well, that's a tier list. Are we strong arming them into A and calling it a day?
Yeah, they don't belong in S.
Yeah, I like it.
Damn, you should say you're the guest of the pod, and they should be an S.
I am the guest of the pod and I defer to Everest.
Hell yeah.
All right, I'm a guest of Sam Butler, and I think they're solidly in A.
Oh,
All right,
All
I'm
right.
open.
I'm open.
I'm
I'm
open.
open.
I'm open.
I guess we can't say goodbye because the meeting's just gonna end. So.
Oh.
Bye.